History of war has been continuously changing from swords and spears to Tsar Bomba and Gatling guns. Humans have traveled quite a journey. Military activity has been the constant variable through the 100,000 years of human history. The essential tactics, strategy, and goals of military operations have not changed since then. For instance, one notable military maneuver is the double envelopment or pincer movement that has been here since centuries. First executed by Hannibal 220 years ago at the Battle of Cannae in 216 BCE. This maneuver was also later used by Khalid ibn al-Walid at the Battle of Walaja in 633 CE and was earlier described by the Chinese military theorist Sun Tzu, who wrote at roughly the same time as the founding of Rome. Let's dive into history of the war timeline and see how the evolution of weapons in war took place. Let's do this by categorizing the periods of history. Ancient warfare. The first archaeological record of a prehistoric war is almost 7,000 years old and is located on the Nile in Egypt. This area is known as Cemetery 117. Archaeologists have found large number of bodies with arrowheads embedded in their skeletons, clearly indicating that they may have been the casualties of a battle. Notable militaries in the ancient world were the Egyptians, Babylonians, Persians, Greeks, notably known as the Spartans, Chinese, and Romans. In prehistoric wars as early as 35,000 BCE, wars were fought with clubs and spears. Arrows, maces, and slings were developed around 12,000 BCE. Chariots pulled by animals like the ox, donkey, and later the horse originated around 2000 BCE. The chariot was an effective weapon for speed. While one man controlled the maneuvering of the chariot, a second bowman could shoot arrows at enemy soldiers. These became crucial to the maintenance of several governments, including the Egyptian kingdom and the Shang dynasty. In the next phase of ancient warfare, the infantry would become the core of military action. The Greeks used rigid, heavily armed phalanxes, but the Romans used mobile legions that were easily maneuverable. Cavalry would subsequently become an important tool. In the Sicilian expedition, the well-trained Syracusan cavalry became crucial to the success of Syracusans. Macedonian commander Alexander the Great effectively deployed his cavalry forces to secure victories. In battles like the Battle of Cannae of the Second Punic War, the cavalry played an important role. There were also horse archers who had the ability to shoot while riding the horseback. The Mongols were especially fearsome with this tactic. In the Middle Ages, armored cataphracts continued to fight on horseback. Even in the First World War, cavalry was still considered important. The British mobilized 165,000 horses, the Austrians 600,000, the Germans 715,000, and the Russians more than 1 million. War elephants were often deployed for fighting in ancient warfare. They were first used in India and later adopted by both the Persians and Alexander the Great against one another. Gunpowder warfare. In the 10th century, the invention of gunpowder led to many new weapons. This changed the entire dynamics of the battlefield. Black powder was used in China since the 4th century, but it was not used as a weapon until the 11th century. Until the mid-15th century, guns were held in one hand, while the explosive charge was ignited by the other hand. Then came the matchlock, which was used widely until around the 1720s. Eventually, the matchlock was replaced by the flintlock. Gunpowder weapons were first developed in Song Dynasty China. The technology later spread west to the Ottoman Empire, from where it spread to the Safavid Empire of Persia and the Mughal Empire of India. This all brought an end to the dominance of armored cavalry on the battlefield. Cannons were first used in Europe in the early 14th century and played a vital role in the 100 Years' War. The 100 Years' War is the name modern historians have given to what was a series of related conflicts fought over a 116-year period between the Kingdom of England and the Kingdom of France, and later Burgundy, beginning in 1337 and ending in 1453. In modern times, war has evolved from an activity soaked in tradition to a scientific enterprise where success is valued above methods. Militaries have developed technological advances rivaling the scientific accomplishments of any other field of study. Distinguishes modern military from those previous is not their willingness to prevail in the conflict by any method, but rather the technological variety of tools and methods available to modern battlefield commanders, from submarines to satellites and from machine guns to nuclear warheads. World War I was the stepping stone in the evolution of modern warfare. The Germans joined the Austrians to form the Central Powers. The French, British, and Russians formed the Allied Powers. Trench warfare, chemical gas weaponry, and tanks were the main derivatives of this war. World War II began with Germany's invasion of Poland, forcing Britain and France to declare war. The Germans quickly defeated France and Belgium. This war played its role as a turning point in the history of mankind. Modern Air Force, Navy, nuclear warheads, missiles, modern tanks, aircraft carriers, fighter jets, and torpedoes all were born during this war. Cold War was another addition in the pages of human history. It did not cause any mass casualties, but it gripped the entire globe, with two superpowers locking their horns for their dominance on the globe. It peaked at the Cuban Missile Crisis and ended at the disintegration of Soviet Union. Without a doubt, modern warfare is far more lethal than any other form of wars in the history of wars. Militaries now do not face each other, yet fight the deadliest and the most brutal battles, resulting in the loss of millions of lives in the matter of seconds.